Winter is coming, and it'll soon get cold, and no doubt the fuel prices will be going skyrocketing. So you might wonder, what are you going to do? Are you going to manage to keep warm? But what if you were frozen to, let's say, I don't know, something like minus 110 degrees? That seems to be very cold. Well, I know a man who's just done that, and he's been on the channel several times. It's our good old friend, Clive de Carle. Clive, hello.
Hello, Richard. It wasn't so
How
much frozen to minus 110, but just being in a room that was minus 110 degrees centigrade. And
sounds like you were trapped in a really bad fridge.
but yes, it was like getting in a butcher's fridge or something. First of all, you get into one chamber, which is minus 60. And after 30 seconds, when you get used to that, you get in through a second door into the bigger chamber, which is minus 110 degrees centigrade. So for Americans, that's about minus 230 Fahrenheit. And you spend 3 minutes in there. The more you move, the colder you get. So you don't really want to move too much.
Right.
But it was surprising. I thought I was being quite brave doing this. And but actually, it wasn't bad at all. And they explained to me that just like humid heat as opposed to dry heat, humid heat isn't nearly so pleasant as dry heat. Dry cold is much more pleasant than wet cold. So if you can imagine how shocking it might be, diving into a freezing river, this wasn't
Yes.
really that bad, actually.
Oh, right. And what are you wearing? Are you wearing a big
Uh,
sort of
uh,
woolly pullover and,
um,
you know?
what you were wearing was a headband to cover your ears, then a mask to stop the cold air getting directly into your mouth, and a pair of shorts and socks. Yeah, that was it.
And that was it. So you
Yeah.
haven't got a great big one of these big snow coats on.
No, well, that would defeat the object.
Well, I'm sure it would.
It reminded me of Wim Hof going up Everest in a pair of shorts.
Yeah.
What
So what do they call this then?
cryotherapy?
And is that because you're in it and you're going, oh, let me out,
Something
let
like
me
that.
out?
Yeah. But the
Cryotherapy.
idea is that it puts the body in a different state very, very quickly, where it suddenly checks itself, goes through everything, and you go into rapid recovery from whatever it is very quickly. Then I also tried a machine called a Vasper, which is where you sort of row and pedal at the same time, and it tells you how much energy you should be putting into it. And then it tells you to sprint for 10 seconds, then you slow down, and you do that 10 times. But what's interesting about it, as opposed to a normal sort of exercise bike, is you have these compression cuffs around your muscles, arms and legs, and linked to that is sort of icy water. So you're compressing your muscles and cooling them at the same time. So you do 20 minutes exercise, which is the equivalent of at least 2 hours of full-on exercise in normal terms. So, I don't feel myself particularly strong, and I was concerned, well, can I do
Mm.
21 minutes on an exercise bike fairly hard? But actually, it was really easy, not nearly as difficult as I had dreaded. And um, at the end of it, I had no muscle aches. I was absolutely fine. It was amazing, really. So, I'm looking at what is out there that can make a huge difference. I've been looking at these frequency rooms where you come into a room and frequencies are like beamed at you, and you can put lots of people in the same room, and they have sort of semi-reclining chairs that act like beds. So most people go to sleep for a few hours in this field. And at the moment, I'm interviewing people to find out is it as good as they say.
And when
And
you say frequencies, I mean, we're not talking about this EMF, the electromagnetic frequencies, which we're told are terrible for us.
well, it's like that, but of course, frequencies, like everything, can be good or bad, can't they?
Right. Yes. So
And so,
these are good frequencies.
yes.
Yes.
And according to testimonials, the results have been incredible. I've now spent 5 hours in this room. I personally felt absolutely zero. Um,
Right.
However, people are getting good results. So it's work in progress. Like,
Mm.
I'm looking at it as, if you are just not the sort of person to do 2 hours exercise, and I'm not,
Mm.
I might do it walking, but not hard exercise. If I could do that much and build up some great muscles, say, really easily in 20 minutes rather than 2 hours, well, maybe I might do it. But, increasingly getting older, one's more and more concerned about, am I going to be healthy enough to get through the next X many years?
Yes.
So I think, I'm quite keen on what's the really, really easy, quick way to keep healthy.
So the next time I interview you, you will be Clive de Carle, He-Man.
Well, there are a couple of snags. One snag is that the particular cryotherapy chamber that I got into, I phoned up the manufacturer to find out the cost. And here or there, it's 220,000 quid. So that's a small issue. Then the vascular
Right.
machine was something like $70,000. But since then, I'm on to another device which actually restricts your breathing temporarily. So you get on the same type of bike,
Hmm.
and then suddenly, for about 10 seconds, uh, there's very little oxygen. And then suddenly it comes back. And again, that has possibly an even greater effect, 15 minutes of this sort of oxygen deprivation temporarily. Because people think that CO2 is a bad thing and that
Mm.
oxygen is what we need, but we need CO2 to breathe. If we're not getting enough CO2, we don't absorb enough oxygen.
Right.
So CO2 can be super useful. And it's you hear about these things, people with asthma that breathe into a paper bag.
Mm.
That's
And
just to
they're breathing
increase the
CO2,
CO2,
aren't they? Yeah.
increasing the CO2. And interestingly, you can do the same with sodium bicarbonate of soda. If somebody were to take a quarter of a teaspoonful, for instance, of bicarb, they would increase their CO2 production. Sodium bicarbonate and CO2 are really almost the same thing. And one of the least expensive medicines, if you like, on the planet, acknowledged by doctors all over the world, is sodium bicarb. Sodium bicarbonate has amazing effects on many, many elements of the body. In emergency medicine, the emergency room will always have sodium bicarbonate around for a host of reasons, maybe to help with a stroke, a whole host of things. Incredibly expensive and incredibly useful, but it's very important to know how to use it properly. Sodium bicarbonate, if you took it after a meal, for instance, because it's highly alkaline, it would turn off your stomach acid, so you wouldn't be able to digest food properly. But if you took the sodium bicarb, again, quarter of a teaspoon, for instance, at least a couple of hours after a meal, now your whole body will respond well to that, and the voltage of your cells will change. And cellular voltage, in some ways we're looking at, is healing. So somebody who's got a serious disease will be running towards a positive microvoltage. Somebody who's healing will be running a good negative microvoltage, which is what we need. So
So would you if you had something like I don't know, snoring problems or sleep apnea or something like that, and you took a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate before you go to bed, would that sort of help your breathing overnight?
good
Or am
question.
I,
And
or am I barking up the wrong tree?
I know you may be barking up the right tree, but I don't know the answer to that one.
Ah, fair enough.
But sleep apnea, some people get great benefits supplementing with magnesium to sort that one out.
Right. Oh, okay.
Um,
So
but but iodine probably would be another interesting way to go that might sort that as well.
don't tell me about iodine. The lovely Dr. Sarah Myhill told me. She was inquiring about my prosthetic eye, and I told her the terrible, sorry 4-year story and the 3 cornea transplants that I had to have because of this bug that had eaten into my eye, and then the sorrowful state that I had beyond that, and then the eventual screaming to have the eye removed. And she said to me, she said, "Oh, that's a shame, because I could have cured it with a bit of iodine."
Yeah,
I said, don't you dare. But yes, super thing, an absolutely super thing. And the lovely Julia and I, we take a dollop of that. We take that. When do we take that? Usually before bedtime. Hope that's a good time.
Well, it can be. Some people prefer it in the morning. For some people, they get more energy. But there are other people who swear that it should be taken at night time. So it's self-experimentation. I don't normally recommend books particularly, but this book, Healing with Iodine, is...
Oh, hang on. Keep it up there. That's it.
There we go. Amazing book by a guy called Mark Serkis. All of Mark's books are incredible. But, I've been manufacturing and selling iodine for 15 or so years. And I've read loads of books on iodine, but this book is exceptional. Iodine, anybody who's got fibrocystic diseases, fibroids, breast cancer, their body temperature is out of whack, too hot, too cold, they've got brain fog, can't think clearly, dry skin, all those things are usually just a simple iodine deficiency. And everybody pretty much is low on iodine. If you're not filtering the water you bathe in, for example, you'll be low on iodine. It's just everybody. Richard, did you see the video I made of the 4 glasses of water?
Yes, I did. It was quite astonishing.
Shall I explain that very briefly?
Yeah, no, please do.
So I poured 3 glasses of tap water. The first glass, I got some chlorine indicator drops, the type of thing you put in your swimming pool to see if the chlorine's there. Goes green. Second glass, I put my fingers in for about 5 seconds, pulled them out, put the chlorine indicator drops, no green. Where had the chlorine gone? Third glass, I put a raw potato slice in for 3 seconds, pulled it out, put the chlorine indicator drops, no chlorine. And I can only assume from that the chlorine in the glass was immediately in seconds sucked into my body and into the potato. So if you have a bath in chlorinated water, what's happening? I dread to think.
Yeah, straight into us.
You can neutralize chlorine very easily with vitamin C, simple ascorbic acid. You put a very small amount, half a teaspoonful, in a bath, and that should be enough to neutralize the chlorine instantly. And you can get with vitamin C shower filters. I've got them on my site, which people really like because not only does it knock out the chlorine, but people tell me their skin feels much better with the vitamin C.
Well, we do it, Julia and I, when we have a bath or whatever. Not to go into too much private detail, but since you told me that, we do that. And the funny thing is, I can sit in the bath, and if it's a deep bath, which isn't very often, but if it's a deep languishing bath and I'm there, the cat leaps up, looks over the side, and it will lick the water. It won't lick it if you put any... I don't put bubble bath and stuff in, but ordinarily. But it seems to like the taste of the vitamin C. There's something there that the cat enjoys. I'm not recommending it to have a closer relationship with your cat whilst you're in the bath, of course. But we taking that tip, and it does. Your skin definitely feels better, softer, and much nicer. So thoroughly recommend that tip. What would be good, Clive, is I often think, we do these videos and it's great fun and people get a lot of information, but the audience can't actually just say, Clive, I want to ask you a question. And wouldn't it be great if we were to be able to be transported, instead of sitting here on Zoom calls and internet thing, into a real life situation where people could watch us and listen to your wisdom and then ask a few questions?
Well, funny you should mention that.
It is rather, isn't it?
What a coincidence. So Rich and I are doing a talk in Nuneaton on Sunday the 15th of this month.
We are.
And Nuneaton, I'm told, is near lots of near places like Birmingham and so on. And
Leicester.
Yes, all those places. So, and it's incredibly well priced. It's £12, which seems ridiculously cheap.
I know.
I don't think we're going to make any money, but nevertheless, these events are fun and you get to meet people. And so basically, I want to take questions, that people want answers to. I mean, for instance, let's say somebody asked me the question, well, um, what would you do with somebody who's got body dysmorphia? They look in the mirror and they think they're fat, but actually they're really thin. Well, what would you do about that?
Mm.
Well, most people,
But
most
buy them a better mirror, I suppose.
absolutely, most people with anorexia are just low on vitamin B1. Vitamin B1.
Right.
If you take any of the B vitamins separately, you want to preferably take the lot as a B vitamin complex. But B1 seems to sort it out for loads of people. Funnily enough, a friend of mine, just after I left school, became anorexic, and it was a bloke. And at that point, I didn't know it happened to men. I only thought it happened to women. And what happened to him was that he was getting thinner and thinner, and people would tell him that nothing worked. And one day he sees another anorexic down at the end of the hall. And he's so panicked by the way this chap looks that he starts to run towards him to warn him. And it was a mirror. And that did it. That fixed the
Yeah.
anorexia.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Because he didn't recognise himself.
Yes.
And where do you, apart from a supplement, which of course I'd recommend that you go to your website immediately and buy as many as they can afford, but where would you normally get vitamin B from?
Well, primarily animal products.
Right.
So vegans, can get in trouble with B vitamin deficiency. It might take years.
Mm.
B12 deficiency, which is, I make a B12 supplement, which is made from natto, which is a really
Natto.
gelatinous. There's another word for it. Anyway, gluconagenous or something like that. Anyway, it's the stuff fermented soya that they eat as a delicacy in Japan.
Right.
Yeah, mucilaginous. I think that's the word I was looking for.
Sounds
The
delicious.
texture of it is just slime, or something. It's 30 years ago since I last in Japan, but anyway, it's one of the few things that you can ferment and get vitamin B12 from. So the problem is many doctors aren't aware of what the real symptoms of B12 deficiency can be.
Mm.
B12 deficiency can end up as looking like dementia, multiple sclerosis, or Parkinson's, really serious, really, really serious issues. So, and it can be 20 years. A friend of mine, I've known a lot of vegans over the decades, and I think without fail, all of them stopped being vegan eventually because it caught up with them, and it was the B12 that they began to notice, like not being able to get out of bed type thing.
Mm.
Then one particular woman, Dr. Jennifer Daniels, Harvard-educated ex-doctor, she talks about her experience where she couldn't get out of bed. And I can't remember, it was more than 2 decades she'd been vegan, and her intuition said calves liver. And she sent out for calves liver, and by the end of that same day, she was out of bed and feeling better.
Wow.
And starvation.
Mm.
And, who would know?
Well, that's a fascinating thing, isn't it? I mean, we are told, of course, that we should stop eating meat and we should have a plant-based diet. I mean, this is thrust down our necks, literally, I suppose. And yet, of course, we'll end up with this vitamin B deficiency, which obviously, if you're selling vitamins, is quite handy. But if you, like me,
you're forgetting the bugs. Surely they have some nutrients in them. Surely.
Surely they've got.
Klaus says they're good.
Pardon?
Klaus says they're good.
Well, Klaus should know, shouldn't he? I'm sure that's what he has every day. He has bugs with gravy and bugs with custard, I'm sure. And he enjoys every one of them.
Crunchy cricket cornflakes.
Absolutely. But yes, for me, I could not. I mean, I lived with a vegetarian for a while, and the thing that she said is, please, whatever you do, you can eat meat around me, I don't mind that, but please don't eat bacon, because the smell of it was enough to shift her back to meat. And I can quite understand that, because bacon is irresistible. I don't know what it is about it, but
But
I do.
it's not the vegans, it's not the vegetarians, it's not the pescatarians, it's not, what you really got to be frightened about is the humanitarians and what they eat.
Yes. Well, what are they eating?
Humans.
Nice. Been a bit
I might have got
cannibalistic.
that wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very nice people that they've eaten. So anyway, we are doing this thing. Tickets are £12. It's in the Upton Barn. I've been there a couple of times now. I think I've performed there once. I've visited it. It's a very nice barn, and it's a very nice venue. There's a bar. There's a nice atmosphere. There's parking. There's even a campsite adjacent to it, so people can come and do that if they so wish. And of course, they get to see lovely Clive de Carle, and I'll be hanging around the side to try and sort of say something of interest or value. But we did one of these before, didn't we? In Hove, actually.
Yes, yes.
And it went down very well.
It was standing ovation after standing ovation. For you, obviously.
Well, I don't know about that. So I'm looking forward to that. It's on the 15th of October. I don't know whether we said that. So it's not long. So I would go and get those tickets and come and see us and ask a few questions and see if you can trump Mr. de Carle with any of your clever questions, because he's been around and done some fascinating things, especially minus 110. Presumably you didn't pay that, whatever it was, £70,000 or 200, whatever it was, to go in there.
No, I think the trial was 25 quid, so that was all right.
Phew, it's a bargain, isn't it? Would you normally only, was the trial the 3 minutes? The full whack
that's
is an
all
hour and a
need.
half?
That's
Oh,
what
is
you
it?
need. You don't actually want to freeze. You just want to, they check your body temperature before you go in and then after you come out to make sure that, they've got it right. So 3 minutes is all you need.
Because what did you say it was called?
Cryotherapy.
Yeah, because if you froze, it would be cryogenics, presumably.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Which is, if you see the door for cryogenics, don't go in that one.
Correct.
That might you wouldn't be coming out. Dear, well, not for 100,000 years, which actually it might well be worth it the way things are going. I'll just go and freeze myself for a few 100,000 years and come back and see if anything's changed. Oh dear. Anyway, listen, it's going to be fun. We do hope you'll come along and see us up there in Midlands. I suppose it is the Midlands, isn't it? It's near Birmingham, Leicester, and all round there. So do come and join us, Clive. But we'll keep this nice and short, and we look forward to seeing you. In the meantime, I'll put a link to the tickets in the description, and of course a link to Clive's lovely shop. And there's the cat, who's looking fine. What's your cat's name? Cat. Original name, please. It's trademarked. Don't copy it. It's lovely to talk to you, Clive. Great to see you looking so well after your cryotherapy.
Well, everything seems warm now.
I bet it does, yes. There'll be no complaints this winter.
All right, thank you, Richard.
My pleasure. Till next time, see you soon. See you there in Upton. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.